Consonance. Okay, we're going to learn about consonance. You heard me, consonance. But seriously, what is consonance? Let's start with an example of how my morning started. Okay, folks, this week we're going to learn about consonants. Next week we'll tackle dissonance. But you need to know musically what their definitions are. So consonance and dissonance are categorizations of simultaneous or successive sounds. Within Western tradition, consonance is typically associated with sweetness, pleasantness, and acceptability. Dissonance is associated with harshness, unpleasantness, or unacceptability, although this depends also on familiarity and musical expertise. You'll see what I'm talking about here soon. All right, let's look at this idea from a Western music perspective. And it's important that you understand that because there's certain biases that are apparent, and you'll see what I'm talking about within our perspectives. All right? We all have biases in music, but from a Western music and how it's traditionally taught, consonance is achieved just with a single note. If you just listen to it, it should feel like it settles. And then in the world of how things resonate together, the perfect type of consonance is what is called an octave. And on the steel drums, if you played them before, it's the outside note and the inside note all together. It's the same note name, right? Here's a C and another C. And if you listen to how they come together, they resonate and they feel like they're at peace with each other. That's consonance. From a mathematical perspective, they are resonating at a 2-to-1 ratio. This is 1. This one resonates twice as fast. So what that means mathematically is every 2 cycles of resonance, they line up together. Listen. If you listen closely, you might be able to hear the resonance. It's about that fast. Listen. Again, perspective if you hear. If I do the same notes lower, the resonance, again, they match up, but the resonance are going to be slower because lower notes have a longer wavelength. That's about. Again, you may not hear that resonance. I can hear it from my perspective. I don't know how good my microphone is. But that most resonant thing, most consonant thing that exists, again, in our Western perspective. This goes back to the Greeks figured it out many years ago, thousands of years ago, and that is the perspective of how all Western music was written. The next most resonant consonant note is a fifth, which sounds like this. Those resonate together at a 3-to-2 ratio. Again, using mathematics, every 3 cycles, they line up together. So our brains, in theory, based on our expectations, make that sounds like, oh, it's at peace. And hopefully it feels like that. It's used sometimes to feel triumphant. I was adding some dissonance in there. But just those fourths and fifths, this is that fifth. Like, oh, that sounds triumphant. That's also a beginning of a song that you guys all know, too. So if I just combine those together, That's octaves. Here's some fifths. Based on our Western view of how we've learned music and our perspective of what's been thrown to us in the society that we live in, that should sound calming to you. It probably does. All right. But perspective is also important. So look at these pictures for perspective, because not only can we find consonants in music, but we can also find it in the things that we see in life. Just like I showed you in the opening of my dog and my cat. That for some might be annoying, which would be like more of a dissonance. To me, I found it as a nice morning wake up, having a cat purring in your face and a dog wanting your attention and wagging her tail to be with you. So listen to, or look at these next pictures. And for me, these pictures represent peace and consonance in my life. All right, my goal with that last video clip, or all the pictures I put in, was to perhaps bring a sense of calm to you. So we talked about, you heard in the music in the background, the fifths and the octaves. Again, to our Western ears, they sound the most consonant. There's one other that comes in, it's a third. There's the third. So let me put those octaves and fifths that we had before, and then add a third. Like all of a sudden, like it should put a little smile on your face. Let me do it again. Here are the octaves and the fifths that we did before. Here's a third. I put those together into like a song. Sounds like this. All I used were fifths and thirds and octaves, right? So from a small perspective, that should give us a sense of, well, there are other ways that we can observe consonance and dissonance. For example, check this out. So, consonants. Are you ready? Dissonance. So here's an interesting predicament. We have a cactus all its thorns and prickers, and we would think that would be a dissonant vehicle. But with perspective, I could bring in consonance. Check it out. So the last thing you just saw was the cactus. It's actually in my backyard. I was playing it. And the thing before this, I showed you guys fifths. Then I added in what's called a third. If you go back and listen to that cactus again, it was this. Which is that fifth. Or sometimes it's a fourth, depending on how you approach it. But it's a fifth and a third. So the cactus was actually consonant, but visually it may have appeared to be a little bit dissonant based on our definition at the beginning. So that's an inherent bias, I think, that we might have. Perspective of what really is dissonance and consonance. So I'm going to play something for you that for me sounds pretty consonant, and I will explain to you why. I haven't played it for a while, so this is hope for the best. So here it goes. Okay. So to me, that was very consonant. It brings a sense of peace to me. When I talk about dissonance next week, I may go back to this piece, and there's an inherent dissonances in there. I think the struggle between dissonance and consonance, sometimes we can find the beauty in it, depending, again, on our perspective. So I'm going to tell you why that song is consonant to me. And honestly, I haven't played it for a while. I wanted to I thought about it. I wanted to just try to see if it's still in here. And it is. I wrote that song 22 years ago. No, 23 years ago, when my daughter was a baby. And she sat on my lap as she was, just kind of sleeping, and she was a little restless, as babies are, and I wanted to create a lullaby for her. So that was her lullaby, and it always has been for me. My daughter's name is Madison, and the first three notes of the melody represent the words Madison. Madison, you are a lovely child. So it's impossible for me to play that melody and to play that song without, for me, having that emotional connection. And part of me feels like because I have that emotional connection when I play it through the music, without you guys knowing, hopefully this happened, that you can feel some sort of emotional connection to what's happening. And you can feel the consonance of my intention of what I'm doing. You're going to find in this assignment that we have that I want you to find some consonance in your life, much like I've shown examples here. I find it in the music that I play. I find it in the environment that I live in. I find it in my house. And I find it in the things that I do, right? And I want you guys to do the same. You'll look over at the rubrics when they're put together, and you can create a video, you can write a poem, you could play some music. You can do lots of different ways to show examples of this. But if you engage in this, I guarantee you, you might find some perspective. And that's what I'm looking for you to find perspective in looking for the consonants. Okay? We'll go into next week. I'll do the yin to the yang of this, or the yang to the yin of this, of the other side of finding dissonance. And again, we'll use perspective as well to see what we can do with dissonance. Okay, so again, look at the assignments. We'll discuss this after this video, after you're finished watching this video, or Mr. Woodruff will discuss it with you in your perspective classes, and we'll go from there. So I'll leave you with